And welcome back, everyone, to game two. The pro draft has already started. Glacial Inferno, pardon me, on the blue side for this game, and they're gonna ban out the Lucian, Vayne, and Graves, same as game one. DovN Nightfall gonna go with the same bans as well. The Nocturne, Tryndamere, and Yasuo, and Inferno gonna go with the Leona first pick. It looks like they're not going to change up what they did last game, and DOV Nightfall content to do the same. They're going to first pick that Morgana again as well, and we'll have to see if they pick the Jin up. No, they're going to go with the Amumu for Gunth this time as their second pick.
All right, so that's interesting. So, like right now, we see the morgue. That could still be a flex for Mohawk Gaming, and Webhippo might play something else. Now, that being said, I doubt that's going to be the case. Because as the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, for sure. But Inferno is starting to make their changes here. They do pick up the Trundle once again for Kamehameha. He did struggle a little bit last game, but might be able to do better. And this game, they do get the Aatrox for Lord Raji. That is one of his most played champions. It was banned in the second phase last time, so they will get it for him this time. But that will give DOB Nightfall counter pick in the first phase. And they will pick up the Darius for Lord of Aces in the top lane. They will switch up their bans as well, going with the Orianna targeted at the mid lane against Windstorm. That was their only winning lane last game, so it looks like they want to make sure Windstorm doesn't get his hands on it this time. Inferno going to ban out the Nami now, looking at DOV Nightfall's Mohawk Gaming. Had a really, really good game on that Nami, on point with those bubbles.
Yeah, and which I have to respect that a lot, especially since I would technically be considered a Nami main because I'm highest mastery with her, and his play was immaculate. There was very few missed bubbles. All of his M flows were like max potential. He was able to get a couple kills with them when his ADC couldn't pick it up. So I mean, like his Nami play was great.
And we are going to see the Jinx ban and the Caitlyn ban. Surprising. Caitlyn being banned out by Inferno here. They don't want Poison Lynch to get his hands on it. Instead, Poison Lynch will pick up the Kaisa for the bot lane. They're going to hold that last pick for either mid or support. They're going to give themselves the ability to flex pick here. Inferno going to pick up the Syndra here for their mid lane pick. So again, very strong lane dominant mid laners. Does pretty well into the Morgana as well. The Black Shield won't be able to block the damage coming, won't be able to block the stun if the damage comes through first, and they're going to pick up the Misfortune for their ADC. So we're going to see the Leona Misfortune combination once again. Nightfall support, they're looking for the Alistar now for their support. So quite a bit of changes here between the two teams.
Yeah, I, I'm not sure how I feel about the Alistair pick. Uh, I mean, if Mohawk Gaming has the headbutt pulverized combo down to where he gets the knockup off before the headbutt sends them away, then I like the pick a lot. On the other hand, though, if he messes those up, that can ruin a team fight for his team. So he's got to be very careful with it.
Yeah, back in the day, Alistair was considered sort of the go-to counter against a Leona, but we have not seen this matchup in quite a while. I don't believe we've actually seen it in Coalition League at all, and it's quite a swap here for Mohawk Gaming. Last game he played an Enchanter support in the Nami, and this game he's going all in with the tank support. So very curious to see how that works out into that specific bot lane matchup here.
Mm-hmm. And it's also still a very strong pick because I mean this time you have Lord Vases on a bruiser instead of more of a tank like Mordekaiser. So it's definitely a good swap to help round out their comp. And it does still provide some healing. Uh, Alistair's ult makes him to where he is a decent initiator if he needs to be. Although I would still prefer to use him as a peel option or maybe a counter engage. But I mean it's a solid comp both teams again, they're solid comps. I'm very curious to see how the Aatrox play is going to work because uh I mean it does give some CC, and Aatrox ult is just annoying. I mean, let's be real. But the amount of burst that Glacial has this game is disgusting with the Syndra and the MF.
Yeah, the team fights and pick potential are absolutely massive from Inferno this game. So does this mean that you favor the Inferno composition right now?
Um, I think it's going to be lane dependent. I'm not sure about who wins the Aatrox Darius matchup early. Uh, Syndra is definitely, like you were saying earlier, Syndra is one of the strongest picks into a morgue just because Syndra can use her orbs to immediately pop a spell shield. Like she just has to point and click. And it's like, oh, no spell shield. Now I gotta stun you. Now I ult you, and now you're dead. So it's definitely gonna be a very rough lane for Web Hippo, I feel like. And then the bot lane again, it's gonna be another skill based matchup. Uh and like you were saying, Alistair back in the day was like the go-to counter. So we'll have to see if that still holds true, or if Glacial's got the better end with the Leona MF combo.
For sure, and with that, we'll have to see which lanes are stronger for the teams. Again, it's going to look like we're going to be looking a lot at the individual lane matchups this game, and rather than the real team fight potential necessarily in the mid game. And I think for top lane, especially Lord Raji, this is one of his most played favorite champions, and if he can't win this matchup with that champion, I'm very worried for Inferno going into game three, how they're going to handle it if Lord of Aces once more gets ahead. But with that, we are going to head into a short intermission break while we wait out the spectator delay here. So we'll see you guys in a couple of minutes here on the Summoners Rift.
We in the game. We on the stage. It's 508. You know the name. We in the game. We on the stage. It's 508. You know the name. We get it lit. We make them rave. It's the campaign. Pop the champagne. Pop the champagne like we pop the champagne.
And we're back onto the Rift, everyone, for Game 2 between Glacial, Inferno, and DovN Nightfall. And just a reminder, this is not a best of 3 format. This is a block of 3 format, which means that instead of ending after this game, we will be going into Game 3, irregardless of who wins the game here. And each win each night is worth 2 points for each of the teams. So potentially, even if you lose all 3 games here, you still get a point for a loss, 2 points for a win. So just playing the game alone racks up points for these teams in the league, and we will not be seeing an invade, it looks like, from either team here. Gunth getting aggressive, still wants to get the deep vision, will get a ward onto the Raptor pit, but other than that, they're just gonna back off.
I'm definitely curious to see if there's going to be any change in jungle pathing. Based on what the comps are. Oh man, it's the cow skin. The cow is wearing the cow skin. Let's go.
The cowbell taunt, and he's just gonna keep doing it. I'm not sure they actually have vision on him, but he doesn't care. Mohawk's gonna keep ringing that bell there.
I mean, you know, Christopher Walken said it best. He's got a fever, and the only prescription is for more cowbell.
And speaking of the jungle path thing that you're talking about earlier, it looks like both junglers are going to opt to start on the bottom side of the map once again here. So both teams just going to start going towards that top lane like they did in the first game. But this time it looks like Lord Roger going to fake a leash a little bit here. Will get to his lane late, so might miss out some minions. No, he will probably get there in time to get the EXP, if not necessarily the actual gold from the minions. But with that, DovN Nightfall is not going to be 100% sure where Kamehameha started. Kamehameha did dodge, I believe, the ward on the Raptor pit, so they will not know for sure where Kame started.
Yeah, it's definitely a very, very smart call. Just forego the Raptors, since they know that that DovN likes to go in for that deep vision.
And here, the level 2 coming out for DovN Nightfall first. Both supports going in, and it's going to be support versus ADC in both fights here, but it looks like Mohawk getting more damage off and does have a bit of sustain from that heal, the passive there from the Triumph on Mohawk Gaming. So looks like DovN Nightfall going to win that level 2 all-in.
Yeah, although I will definitely say that in the case of Glacial, they played it just how they needed to. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, no, it's fine.
Yeah, Lord Roger just taking a bit of a beating there, but they're both tanky champions in that top lane. Both will be just fine taking that trade back and forth. Lord of Aces does manage to hit level 3 first though, so we'll have a bit of advantage, but looks like we see Kamehameha once again looking for that early top gank. We saw this last game, but this time Gunth is in the area. The pillar coming down a bit early there in the top lane. The ghost coming out from Lord of Aces as well, and the flash coming in. Gunth manages to land the bandage shots this time. We'll get first blood on to Lord Roger, but Gunth will not survive. We'll go down to Kamehameha, and now we see the 1v1. The flash is coming out from both of them here, but it's going to be Kame picking up the double kill this time. And Glacial Inferno off to a much better start this game too.
Yeah, that was very clean by both teams. Like, I definitely think the Aatrox, a little bit more damage that the Aatrox. Oh.
And bot lane, Mohawk getting yet another beautiful engage onto that girl. But Poison Lynch was not quite in the area. They'd have to fend off Nimue. So again, trading back and forth between the supports and the ADCs.
Yeah, both Nimue and Mohawk are playing out of their minds. They're both engaging directly onto the ADC. Depending on, like, whether it's Nimue who goes in first and then Mohawk answering, or if it's vice versa. They're both targeting the ADC like they're supposed to, instead of targeting
But as we say, that Mohawk going in once again. This time Gunth is there. He misses the bandage toss on the stunned up the girl, and that girl will be able to survive that engage. That Poison Lynch almost going down himself. But that's going to be all the summoners blown on the side of Glacial Inferno here, trading only the Ignite from Mohawk.
Yeah, that was definitely a very good opportunity from Gunth. But I mean, misclicks happen. No one's perfect.
For sure, and I think that stun lasted a little bit longer than he might have expected there, so the bandage toss, the free kill, doesn't quite come across. That being said, we do see DovN Nightfall's bot lane. They're going to base to get their first buys here. They're going to pick up a tier for Poison Lynch as well as a dagger, so won't have a ton of combat stats. If that girl gets the timing right, they will be a lot stronger in lane for the next little while here.
Mm-hmm. So just looking at builds currently for the top lane, I think Aatrox might be rushing a Blade of the Rune King potentially, whereas Darius is going for something like Black Cleaver.
For sure, and as the fight breaks up, Lord of Aces taking a huge beating here, will get killed in the 1v1 from Lord Raji. The flash there, potentially not necessary, but will help to secure the kill. And again, the support's going on the ADCs, but that girl taking a lot of damage from Mohawk. And Nimue didn't really manage to get much off. Leona needs the ally to proc her passive there, and didn't have that girl to get any damage off in that fight.
Yeah, that is definitely the one thing that is hurting Glacial right now.
And this time Mohawk gonna go onto Nimue, gets the stun off, but now this time it's gonna be the Kai'Sa W not gonna land on the target, but they still get good damage on. There's no real sustain for Leona in the lane aside from whatever consumable she has, but the roam coming down from Windstorm here gets punted away by Mohawk Gaming. Mohawk isn't 6 yet, so they land the stun. They could potentially get a kill, and the stun goes onto Poison Lynch. It's good. Unleashed Power comes down. Wasn't enough to get the kill, but that girl gets the last auto off and will be able to convert a kill in the bot lane. 1-for-0 with a good roam from Windstorm, and now the teleport coming out from Windstorm to get back to the mid lane, so he doesn't miss too much in the mid lane there.
Yeah, very, very clean roam.
A top lane, Comet going for a gank once again, and Dove Ace is just giving up, just gonna try and kill minions, it looks like, while he's going down there. And that's 5 kills now for the side of Glacial Inferno to DovN Nightfall's 1 kill in that top lane.
Yeah, this game is it's much more aggressive than the previous game. We're 6 kills in at 7.5 minutes.
Yeah, and it's Glacial this time making all the moves, all the early game moves, getting all the kills and rotations here. That being said, the Ocean Drake is up, and neither team really positioning to go get it. That girl just dropping a ward to see it, making sure that they get vision onto it, but they're not going to try for it yet. They're going to base instead and buy their items, and they should be able to afford BFs. No, they're going to go for the Caulfield Warhammer in the bot lane for the misfortune there, and the Boots of Swiftness onto Nimue. So interesting choice on boots for the Leona.
See, like, you know, that's a hot take because everyone's like, oh, you need Mobies because they're better, and I'm just like, yeah, you're faster with them, but then once you're in, you lose. You just have Boots of Speed at that point. Whereas with Boots of Swiftness, you constantly have the movement speed, and you constantly have reduction to slows.
But unfortunately, the extra movement speed was not enough to get them there in time, as DovN Nightfall, despite losing in their lanes, managed to pick up the first Drake of the game. And it's going to be an Ocean Drake too, so lots of sustain in their extended laning phases. Now looking at the mid lane, we surprisingly see Windstorm losing the mid lane here in terms of CS. Web Hippo actually upped CS despite Windstorm being on a more lane dominant champion this game. Generally, Syndra considered stronger than Orianna in lane, but somehow it's the other way. Whereas if we look at the side lanes, top lane, Lord Raji winning, or not actually winning in terms of gold, but not in terms of CS, and bot lane. Once more, Poison Lynch absolutely dominating that bot lane. Another 30 CS advantage at 9.5 minutes into the game here.
True, but we also got to keep in mind that Windstorm did roam down bot lane for the gank and an assist. And like right now they're what, only 6-7 gold behind? So they're only a wave behind, so it's relatively speaking that's good wave management.
Yeah, that is very true. Very close gold here in the mid lane. In the jungle, we do see an advantage for Kamehameha as his ganks are going off. But in top lane, Lord Raji and Lord of Aces fighting it out. And this time it looks like Lord of Aces might be winning this fight here, getting a lot of damage down. The guillotine comes down, but it's not enough to pick Lord Raji up. The bleed continues on, but it will not. Oh no, it is! The shutdown for Lord of Aces just off the 5-stack bleed there. Will be able to turn it around a little bit in the top lane there. So despite going down 3 times, he's still really strong in the lane. And mid lane, we saw an attempted gank from Gunth. Will flash, but misses the bandage toss. And Windstorm will remain safe, though he's completely out of mana.
Man, I'm actually extremely surprised. Like, he must have died off of, like, the very last tick of that bleed. Like, that's very unfortunate.
And we see Lord Raji teleporting into the top lane using the teleport movement speed buff. Gonna try and cut Lord of Aces off here. Lord of Aces is gonna flash over that wall to safety, but that is his flash down, and instead it's gonna be Gunth picking up the Herald in the jungle while that was happening, and Kame was in the mid lane holding that mid lane against Web Hippo, was not aware, and that's gonna be again objectives going to DovN Nightfall.
Yeah, DovN Nightfall, they have definitely been on their objective game this evening, like for sure.
Yeah, and this is very reminiscent of the DovN Nightfall we saw last split. They were 3rd place for most of the split, only dropping at the last second in the playoffs against the Dark Horse of Shadow Keepers. But this was the way they played. Very strong objective control, very tight team cohesion. Their mid game is where they shine, so them losing in the laning phase doesn't really mean much. And they might be down kills, but they're actually up about 300 gold, but Gunth now getting collapsed on by Kamehameha and Lord Raji. The curse of the sad mummy will stop them for a little bit, but not long enough as he looks like he bandage tossed back in there and ended up going down. So he gifts a free kill over to the side of Glacial Inferno.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I wonder if that was just a misclick, or maybe he thought Lord Aces was closer than what he was. I'm not sure what that was.
Either way, but, he did go down, and Lord of Aces now trying to clear the ward from Kamehameha, might pay for it with his life here. He just walked into 2 people there. That was a 1v2 he willingly chose, and that means that he will go down once again, and that means Lord Raji now 4-2-2, having a much better game too.
Yeah, and a Fed Aatrox that's definitely one of the more dominant top laners that you don't want to be fed.
For sure.
Along the likes of, like, say, Gangplank or
a beautiful gank coming in from Mohawk Gaming as he just runs up straight from the ball lane. He went with the Moby boots, and that's paying off as it gives him a fast roam. Windstorm completely unable to do anything when the cowl suddenly popped up behind her. And correction for the top lane, it wasn't a re-engage from Gunth there, it was the Aatrox chains. Thank you, Chief Keith 03. Yeah, so he didn't re-engage. It was the pull from Lord Raji which got the kill onto Gunth. So really good play from the Aatrox there. Lord Raji showing why he's that Aatrox should be banned from him. He's been playing it a lot, and he knows the limits of those champions.
Definitely.
Dark Binding coming out onto Kamehameha now. Sorry to cut you off, but the Dragon fight, the position fight for Dragon is coming off here, and we do see the Herald being dropped into the mid lane by Gunth. He's looking to get some pressure so that he can potentially get the Dragon, but it's going to be Mohawk getting caught out here by his stun. We do see the Unbreakable will come across, but he will still have to flash himself to safety, and Shelly charging up for that mid lane will do a ton of damage onto the turret here. Will not be able to take it down, but that's a lot of plates down, and Gunth getting the gold for that. On the side of Glacial Inferno, they will be able to pick up their first Drake of the series here, and it's going to be a Cloud Drake for themselves.
Yeah, and that could be a very bad thing for DOV. I mean, the Leona MF combo on a shorter cooldown is definitely something we're going to have to pay attention to. Yeah, not to mention Cinder ult or Aatrox being able to keep himself in team fights.
Yeah, that ultimate cooldown reduction has been key in all the games we've seen it being stacked on. This game it won't be stacked, but still, just a basic cooldown reduction this early is massive. The level 1 ults have the longest cooldowns. Nimue hiding in that bush here, and it looks like they don't know he's there. No, but he auto-attacked Mohawk, and so all of a sudden, Nimue is really deep in without support from that girl. The solar flare though does come across, and the bullet time getting damage onto Poison Lynch will not be enough, and we see Mohawk just body blocking and positioning to disengage, forcing that girl to be careful. Stop the bullet time really early too, so great play from Mohawk Gaming in the bot lane.
Yeah, Mohawk Gaming playing out of his mind, like, for sure. Like, holy, like, you couldn't ask for a better cancel than that.
Yeah, and I mean, that just brings up the question of how is that girl going to get the bullet time off with the interrupts? And that's just in the bot lane. Later in the game, you will have Gunth, you'll have Web Hippo, you have Lord of Aces all running, trying to stop that girl from getting bullet time off. So I don't know if the MF is going to be able to get a good ultimate off this game at all. And we'll have to see if that works or not. Gunth showing up in the bot lane, clearing out the vision ward there, working with Mohawk Gaming to deny vision, and that will force that girl and Nimue to be a bit more passive in their lane here. We'll have to hide the turret. They don't know if Gunth is just still waiting there or not.
Yeah, definitely. In order for that girl to get off a good bullet time, she's going to have to get a very strong flank while Leona hits a solar flare. That will be their best chance to be able to get a couple kills off of an MF ult.
Yeah, and they did pick that MF pretty late, but I believe it was still the Ouster that was the last pick. So that Ouster specifically counter top lane. Lord Raji having to flash to safety against Lord of Aces. Lord of Aces putting up a great showing for himself in that top lane there. Doesn't care that he gets ganked. Still able to apply that pressure onto Lord Raji, forcing him to be careful. And bot lane, Gunth flashing to the bot lane will force the flash out of that girl as well, but Kamehameha has arrived, so it's now a 3v3, and Nimue positioning very aggressively, potentially looking for that solar flare, but will back off as missing pings come up from the mid lane. Web Hippo going, and it's going to be top lane Lord of Aces forcing the World Ender out of Lord Raji. There still has his flash as well, so potentially can re-engage. The pool coming down, and we do see the stacks coming on. That's 2 stacks of bleed, 3 stacks of bleed. The guillotine coming out early once again, but definitely this time Lord Raji definitely more than healthy enough to survive. The bleed will not go down. The dark binding coming out from Web Hippo. The bait recall is good, and Lord Windstorm is going to be dropped down to less than half health now. Web Hippo might be able to kill him if he can get the soul shackles off, and that gold lead we had spoken about earlier, that project gold lead has suddenly increased now to about a 700 gold lead in favor of DovN Nightfall, mostly just through laning, it looks like.
Yeah, so far, the game definitely started off a lot more aggressive than the previous one, but it also very quickly quieted down a lot faster than the previous one, whereas the last game escalated very quickly.
But here we have Kamehameha looking to get potentially the first Herald of the game, but Gunth is turning around the corner. We'll spot him out, and Gunth is a level up as well. We'll force the flash out of Kamehameha really early there, but we do see Lord Raji in the area. We'll be able to back him up. Lord of Aces there as well, so it's going to be a 2-on-2, but Shelly is doing a ton of damage to Gunth, and Gunth gonna go down. Kamehameha now looking to survive, will be able to do so, but the fight continues there. And bot lane does a fight as well as Windstorm and Web Hippo both roam up. Web Hippo going to be the one going down along with Lord of Aces bot lane. There was a fight as well where they dove the turret, did manage to pick up that girl as well, because Nimue wasn't in the area. Nimue had rotated to the top to help out in that top lane fight. So they trade 2 for 3, which is definitely in favor of Glacial Inferno, and they pick up their first Herald of the game. Of the series, actually. They're going to drop in mid, going to try and get this mid lane turret potentially.
Right, which that will definitely help make up for the having to trade bot turret for that. But I mean, now you have DovN that's on yet again Infernal Dragon.
Yeah, but it's only the bot lane here, and Nimue going in aggressively, gets punted to safety by Mohawk. But Nimue will survive, it looks like, as Windstorm shows up in the area as well. Gunt will be able to pick up onto Nimue, and Poison Lynch somehow surviving through all of that. Walks into the bullet time, but will be able to get out safely, and we do see Windstorm going down. Lord Raji and Kamehameha have arrived, and we'll be able to force Gunt out of the area. So that's a 2-for-1 in favor of DOV Nightfall, but Lord of Aces not having teleport this game took the more aggressive Ghost. The utility-based Ghost will not be able to arrive, and instead that Inferno Drake that was started up by DOV Nightfall's bot lane is going to be handed over to Glacial Inferno instead.
Yeah, and I mean, as the game stands right now, DOV was definitely needing that just to deal with Aatrox, because Aatrox is very strong right now. He is very far ahead. So any kind of extra damage Aatrox can get is one step closer to a death sentence for DOV Nightfall.
Yeah, his World Ender will certainly end their worlds if he can stack enough Inferno Drakes on himself. Not to mention the Infernal Soul that will give him that additional burst of damage when he can hit it on to new champions. So with that, we do see Glacial Inferno falling further behind in gold despite getting the Herald, despite getting the mid lane turret there for themselves, their first turret off the game, and getting the Drake.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how, like, the gold count is looking this game. It's just like, it looks like Glacial is coming back ahead, and all of a sudden DOV just picks up all this extra gold, literally from almost out of nowhere, and you're just like, where did you find this?
They managed to crack all the turrets on the side of Glacial Inferno, and while they did get the Drake there, Lord of Aces did manage to pick up the top lane turret and get a lot of damage down on that inner turret as well. It's down to less than a quarter health, so we'll be very, very vulnerable to a split push or to a concerted push onto that top lane here. And it looks like they've switched up the lanes a bit. Lord of Aces still in that top lane, doesn't have teleports, doesn't matter where they send him. They sent Web Hippo to the bot lane, and Web Hippo does have teleport. We do see Lord of Aces getting on to Windstorm, but a good knockback there will keep Lord of Aces at bay. And then we see the bot lane now rotated to the mid lane instead. So a bit of a lane swap here on the side of Glacial Inferno. Instead, we see the Windstorm being sent to that top lane while the rest of the team is grouping mid. Looks like they're looking for team fights here.
Yeah, that's I kind of like that call. I kind of like the call a lot because Syndra has enough damage to be able to split relatively quickly and then start heading back to where the team needs her in case they need her ult for a team fight. Just because of how much burst the Syndra can put out, even with just the Ludens. But with her also having that Oblivion Orb, like, her wave clear is going to be very nice.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of magic resistance on the side of DOV Nightfall yet either. Lord of Ace is only carrying that Merc Treads, and in the jungle, Gunt is the only one really with magic resistance with the Abyssal Mask there. So other than that, Windstorm definitely going to be able to pop some people. They can get enough orbs on to the ground to pop the Unleash power. But for now, it looks like both sides content to sort of be a bit more passive, just farm it up a little bit. We do see Vision on the Baron here, but neither team really attempting to contest for it. No Dragon for the next just under 2 minutes here, so it's only going to be turrets and Baron available for both teams to try and take here.
Right, and unlike last game, there's not an Ornn in this game, so it's definitely going to be a little bit harder to discern who's going to have that lead from just playing it cool and farming up and getting power spikes. As it stands right now, I think I would give it to Glacial just because of how far ahead Aatrox is. And Syndra is one of those champions where if you leave her alone long enough, she'll just hit item spikes, and then all of a sudden you see her and you just disappear.
For sure, but they will have to be very careful there. Cheeky back from Mohawk just held his nerve and continued the base even though he saw the ward go down. But Poison Lynch, I think, is the biggest beneficiary of this sort of peace treaty that they're having right now where they're just farming it up. Poison Lynch first to break the 200 CS mark. Windstorm hot on his heels, but that's a huge CS discrepancy in the bot lane there. It's about a 70 CS discrepancy, the widest in the game right now. If we check the gold differences, that's converting to about a 2,500 gold difference in the ADCs.
Right, and I mean that's all in. I mean that's just all Mohawk's doing, just because of how aggressive he was early. And oh wait a minute, someone's hungry.
Ghost coming out of Lord of Aces. He's on to Windstorm, and he might not have a ton of magic resist, but he does have a lot of health, and he's going in. Already forced the flash out of Windstorm. Didn't even have to use his, and will be able to run him down. Didn't even execute him. Just whacked him in the face multiple times with an axe, and that will give DOV Nightfall the agency to move on to Inferno Drake here. They have Prio onto it. It's a 5v4 if Glacial Inferno decides to try and contest this. So instead they'll give it up for free, and that's 2 Drakes apiece now. That girl has to be careful. Gets hooked up by Lord of Aces. I'm not sure that pillar was beneficial. It locked him in, and that's that girl going down immediately now. Nimue and Kame stuck, and it's going to be both of them going down. Lord Raji running for the hills there. The only one left alive right now for the side of Glacial Inferno, and just suddenly, just a 4-for-0 just out of nowhere.
Yeah, but that just kind of goes to show what I was saying last game. It's just like there's just a couple of points of either bad positioning or a misclick, and someone gets caught out. Perfect example right there. You know, didn't need to necessarily be there. They had already opted to give the dragon over. They could have just left, possibly rotate over to Baron or to their mid, and instead, now DOV Nightfall has a free Baron buff.
Yeah, Windstorm might have cost them the dragon, but everyone else cost them the Baron, and all of a sudden DOV Nightfall looking at, they're firmly in the driver's seat once again. About 6,000 gold up with Baron buff. The last time we saw them grab Baron buff, we saw them crack open 2 lanes here. Well, actually, they cracked the lanes before they even got the Baron buff, but they finished out the game with the Baron buff last game, so we'll have to see what they can get this time. They've all gone back to base and bot, so they will be fully armed coming into this next fight here, and it looks like they're gonna go with a 3-lane push here. They've sent Web Hippo to that bot lane. Web Hippo does have the teleport, will be able to rejoin anywhere on the map they need to. The bot lane of Poison Lynch and Mohawk pushing up the mid lane, and Lord of Aces looking to potentially join them maybe in the mid lane, and Gunth is gonna farm Krugs.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I mean, I don't know why you would want to be farming your Krugs right now, but I mean, you do you. It's whatever. Oh,
we see the solar flare coming down from Nimue, potentially looking, but doesn't quite land the stun onto Poison Lynch. Just the tip of the slow there, but Poison Lynch far enough to get to safety, and that means that's 1 major ultimate down on the side of Glacial Inferno, and Lord of Aces is going to go to that top lane, finish off what he started, get that top lane inner turret, while Web Hippo continues pounding away on that bot lane inner turret, and with that suddenly the mid lane is the only inner turret left alive. They're collapsing onto Lord of Aces right now. They get the pillar down, and Lord Raji is coming around for the flank, but Kamehameha will have to survive that long at least. We see the ghost coming out here from Lord of Aces, and all of a sudden the 2v1 isn't looking so good for them as Lord of Aces just keeps running around them bot lane. We did see Windstorm go down as Mohawk showed up and got and assisted Web Hippo in the kill there. They finally do take Lord of Aces down in that top side. So it's a 1-for-1 trade, but they lost the inhibitor turret and potentially the inhibitor in that bot lane as well, and they're going to lose the mid lane inner as well. Now they're going for Mohawk. The Black Shield comes out, but they don't need it. Instead, he turns around to get Nimue on the turn there. Web Hippo with the Soul Shackles will go golden with the Zonias, and that's a lot of damage. The 3 Baron up siege minions are doing work. They lose that girl, and they lose Kamehameha as well, and so it's just Lord Raji left alive, but he's running away. Those minions might even be able to take him. He's extremely low, down to 30 health from the minions chasing him. And this might be game as DOV Nightfall goes in with the minions. Windstorm gonna go in, and Poison Lynch gets taken down by the turret, had the turret aggro. So they will lose their ADC on the push here, but they have a bunch of Baron up siege minions here. They took down 1 Nexus turret, might be able to get the second. No, they won't. Gunth is tanking it up, and Inferno has respawned. So we'll be able to push DOV Nightfall back on this last Nexus push here.
Yeah, Mohawk definitely putting out a lot more damage than I anticipated him to be able to put out. He's definitely like, look, you mess with the bull, you get the horns, my dude. Like, just don't front.
Yeah, Mohawk putting on an absolute clinic here on the Alistar this game, doing tons and tons of work. He's 2, 1, and 10. Part of 75% of the kills for his team right now. Highest KP on his team. So definitely making his presence felt around the map here. And he just managed to finish his Sunfire Cape as well. So if you thought he was doing damage before, well...
Yeah, no joke. I mean... That's just rough if you're Glacial right now.
Yeah, and with that, the Inferno Drake is going to spawn again. This will not be Soul Drake for either team, so it's just for the Inferno bonuses, the increased damage at this point. Lord of Aces popping the Blast Cone so that they won't have that available over the pit. They're just going to pull it out, but it's DOV Nightfall who has prio on this one, and the positioning. And Glacial Inferno will have to back off, but Kame does get hit by a dart. Binding and Nimue is in real deep here. Poison Lynch on the backline, just kiting away from Kame, looking to try and get a kill. They do pop him right away, and that girl gonna get slaughtered by Lord of Aces, and he's on a dunking spree, and that's an ace for the side of DOV Nightfall. Double kill onto Kaisa, Poison Lynch. Double kill onto Lord of Aces as well with the dunks, and that will be game here. They're just going in for the push. They're not going to wait for minions. They don't have to. Web Hippo going to teleport straight in with the minions. They don't have Baron buff, but they do have supers in that bot lane. They take out the second Nexus turret, and they're going to take the Nexus out as well after that. And it's going to be about 31-minute game. Congrats to DOV Nightfall to take game 2.
Yeah, that was definitely a better fight from Glacial than in game 1. I do feel like that they did step their game up. They just got to step it up a little bit more, because they definitely weren't out of position nearly as much in this game as they were in the previous one. But when they were, it was devastating. It was game ending.
Yeah, it was a huge issue, and if you look at the turrets taken too, it was 11-1. DOV Nightfall might have been behind, but they were getting a ton of they were getting all the turrets basically.
Yeah, and it's just like at one point, like, so Glacial was up in kills, which, you know, that's fine, but I feel like they prioritized trying to wait to pick people off before going to objectives, and that's not always the right play. There's a balance that you have to meet. Whereas, you know, I mean, you look at DOV, you know, yeah, they didn't have a lot of kills early, but they were able to get that goal just from getting objectives. And then they hit their item spikes, and then they got the kills.
Yeah, and Lord of Aces doing work this game. A ton of damage, 23.5 thousand damage. The next closest person was Lord Raji, who definitely had a much, much better showing this game.
Yeah, and then, I mean, there's something to be said when you see an Alistar that's almost at 10k damage, and he's going full tank. I'm just saying.
Yeah, doing more damage than Gunth on the Amumu, actually. So definitely, you know, well played from the side of Mohawk Gaming and DOV Nightfall. And the problem now is, if you are Glacial Inferno, what do you do? What do you ban out? Gunth's Amumu has been doing a lot of work with the AoE lockdown in the mid game. Lord of Aces Darius is an issue that even the Aatrox for Lord Raji couldn't quite completely deal with. The Morgana from Web Hippo has been quietly putting in the work as well, and Mohawk Gaming's Alistar is an absolute nightmare. So what do you do for game 3 here?
I feel like you don't necessarily look to try to ban someone out. You just try to piece together a comp that you're comfortable with and ban things that would counter your comp. Make it to where, give yourself the most successful potential to come out with the win.
Okay, so we're looking for Glacial Inferno to try and craft together a composition on their side that will allow them to really sort of come into their own rather than try and counter. So we'll have to see what they manage to put together here going into game 3. And ladies and gents, there will indeed be a game 3. This is a block of 3, not a best of 3. So we'll be heading to a short intermission break before we head into game 3.